First, let's start with this case. My 35 little sister, 31F, gave birth to her second child late Dec 24. She asked me to be her second birth partner to support her and her husband, and I was stoked to agree. Mom thought it was great too. Some background on my parents, 65F, 71M. Mom loves to play the victim. We used to be close, but I don't like playing her therapist anymore. My dad was a workaholic with zero emotional regulation and quick to anger. Jump to see you. It was the most amazing and emotional experience to help my sis, and she has a calm, natural birth. They made baby's middle name my first name, total honor. I tried leaving to avoid overstaying, but my sister wanted me to stay at the hospital overnight to help her while her husband went back home to their toddler. So I did. It was super special caring for her. In the lead up, my sis told my parents she's not sure if she wants them visiting the hospital or when they first get home. She also sets the "don't come if you're sick" and "no kissing baby" rule. They're miffed. Next morning, Mom messages me and invites her and Dad to have a coffee at the hospital. I say I'll come to our family home, but she says no because they are in the middle of packing to move to their property 3 hours away. When we meet, my dad is coughing sick and he goes, "So we are going up to meet the baby now?" I say no, that's not the plan, and you can't meet baby if you are sick. Dad starts yelling in the middle of the hospital cafe saying yes, he can because baby already has an immunity from my sister, and heaps of babies are born in disgusting conditions around the world. He then accuses me of subterfuge for being at the birth. He won't stop yelling and demanding to go up to the ward. I tell him he doesn't have my sister's permission and she needs to know he's unwell. My mom is all, "I told you not to say anything." Dad keeps escalating. I tell Dad I'd rather he be NC with me than I go against my sister's boundaries when she's so vulnerable after birth. He carries on about my conniving subterfuge and manipulation, I think for not saying I was at the birth. I then told Dad that my sister asked me 6 months ago. Sis had told Mom multiple times since, and Sis told Mom yesterday I was on my way. Dad looked confused and Mom says I must have forgot. I went back to the ward without them, warned my sister, said goodbye, and made a hasty exit to drive back home, crying the whole way. My sis ended up letting my parents come into the ward, though Dad wasn't allowed near the baby. I then find out they drove back to their property the next day. So it was zero about supporting my sister and her husband. I haven't spoken to my parents since. Am I in the wrong? Let's start judging. Sorry, doesn't make any sense. I'm not even sure why you are involved in all of this. Your sister was undecided whether they could visit or not. So why didn't your parents message your sister or her husband to see if they could come to the hospital? Why are they messaging you to meet for a coffee and think that you can give them permission? You're not in the wrong, but your parents sure are. It's really sad that even in this day and age, parents can't just be respectful of their kids and their wishes, or understand that the ways of the world have changed for reasons. Like, oh, I don't know, modern medicine has come a long way, and we know foreign germs on a fresh baby can be deadly? Your parents were entirely self-motivated in this situation. It was not about their deep care or concern for your sister or her well-being, because if it was, they wouldn't have pulled any of this. It was exclusively about them wanting bragging rights about being first to meet a new baby, which is ridiculous behavior, but also tracks for them being boomers, unfortunately. It may not have been fully your place to try to keep your parents from seeing the baby, but your sister was in a vulnerable position, physically and emotionally, after giving birth, and you absolutely did the right thing by standing up for her. She clearly trusts you and wanted you by her side for a reason, because she knew you would be exactly the support she needed in more ways than one. I'm sorry your parents were so out of pocket with you. I hope you can understand that it's not you or anything you did, but rather a symptom of their generation's general emotional stunting. Focus your energy on being a sister and an auntie, and know you did the right thing. I hope your sister and her family are doing great with their new addition. Next up, my baby shower is today, and I was just told last night my aunt will be visiting for a few days from a different state, and today is her birthday. Last night I was unaware of her birthday or even coming. Then I was told my mother bought her a cake and planned on having everyone sing happy birthday at my shower. My issue is that there will be multiple strangers who have no clue who she is that will be forced to awkwardly sing to her. And they couldn't wait for another day. She is going to be here for a few days, so I'm confused why they couldn't simply take her to dinner after the event or a different day. When I expressed my concern, my family implied I'm being selfish, and then proceeded to say I had no choice, as I didn't pay for the shower. This is my first child, and my family has made it clear this will be my one and only baby shower. So am I in the wrong for asking that this one event, not even the entire day, just the event, to be about me only. Edit. To everyone saying I should be happy to share this with my aunt because she came for me, I never said she came for me or for this shower. She just happens to be here, and it would be a different situation if I were closer to this aunt. But as previously mentioned, I'm distant enough to have not even known it was her birthday. Also, when this Tia was originally told about my pregnancy, she was insanely negative and criticizing, telling me to possibly abort. Let's start judging. Personally, if I was the aunt, I'd be super uncomfortable with that and would prefer just going out to dinner later. But it sounds like there is not much you can do about the situation, but let it play out and people can think what they think. You're not in the wrong. I don't care who is paying. This is your baby shower. It's a very special event to you and one that cannot be replicated. Your aunt will be there for multiple days for your family to celebrate her birthday, and she has a birthday every year, so it's not cool of your mom to want to celebrate your aunt's birthday and take focus away during your special event. And honestly, if I were the aunt here, I'd be uncomfortable with it. I don't understand how a simple HBD takes away from the shower. No one will forget it's about you, and if it's awkward for people to sing, then they shouldn't. And your mom and aunt will feel awkward, which makes you happy probably. I guess I don't understand the "it's gotta be all about me" thing, like everyone is crowded by you the entire time, and all anyone can speak on is you. I'm genuinely confused. My shower and those I've been to were basically family friends, a party with food, cake, and opening presents. Maybe we did it wrong. Next up, the place I live is relatively affluent, and there's barely anyone in my school who isn't upper middle class, which makes me an outlier as I'm not very well off compared to them. People avoid me BCS of my family background. I know I have a pretty bad reputation, but I don't get bullied per se. I just get ignored more, which is fine, I guess, since my 16M anxiety is really bad. I'm quite quiet and I don't really talk to anybody in school. I had a bad year as my mom passed away and my brother was arrested, so we've been struggling more than usual. I didn't tell anyone about it except for like 2 people and the school. I don't know how, but people found out and word spreads around maybe through their parents. Last week, people started asking me about it, even though none of them ever talked to me before. So, in one of my classes, the teacher was talking about incarceration, and this guy raised his hand and said, "I think his brother got arrested recently. Why don't we ask him about his experience?" I was mortified, and the teacher just said that it was highly inappropriate and shut it down. I left as soon as possible, but from what I heard, he got scolded after that. At lunch, I usually sit with only one other person, and the next day that guy and all his friends came over and started asking me about my life. One of them brought up my mom and said that he was sorry for me, but I should try to keep out of trouble, and that he wouldn't want me going down the same path as my brother. I know it sounds really harmless, but I don't know. I just know that they were trying to get back at me by acting condescending. I was really mad at this point and told them to shut up. The same guy from class called me a mommy's boy who couldn't handle a joke, and I don't know why, but that really set me off, and I started crying. And then they realized they had to back off and left. After that, I heard that they were spreading rumors that my mom was a hooker and some other disgusting stuff. I knew it was from them because they told my friend to his face. My friend told me I should report all of them for provoking me. The guy in my class who brought up my brother had really good grades, and the school was planning on sending him to some competition. I knew that it would get him in a lot of trouble, but I didn't care at that point. So I followed my friend's advice and reported all of them. A week later, I found out that he was kicked out of the school team and wouldn't be allowed to compete in any events for the next 6 months. This is genuinely a really harsh punishment, and I didn't expect it to be so serious. At first, I felt a little satisfied, which is bad, I know, but a lot of people have been glaring at me for days, and one of his friends confronted me and told me I had such a massive overreaction and jeopardized his future over this. I'm not sure whether what I did was justified and if I was overreacting. I'm sorry if this is very long. Let's start judging. He got himself dropped by behaving in such a despicable manner. If there was nothing wrong with his behavior, the school would not have reacted the way they did. Good grades say nothing about a person's personality and values. Stepping on someone who he thinks is below him shows what a bully he truly is. Better he learns fast that actions have consequences. I would not feel bad for reporting this type of harassment. You're not in the wrong. You're not in the wrong. Honey, he isn't even banned from competing in events forever, and losing an after-school activity isn't the end of the world. Does your classmate really think that future employers are going to drop him as a candidate because of high school drama? You jeopardized nothing, and this is 100% a situation where you stick up for yourself as he was escalating. Of course, his friends pick his side, so you just disregard anybody who doesn't have your best interests at heart, okay? You're not in the wrong. This kid is experiencing the consequences of his actions. You tell us that he's upper middle class, meaning his family is wealthy enough to have probably shielded him from a lot of problems, and he's probably gotten away with a lot of things that he shouldn't have. But he's about to be an adult. And yeah, they might still be able to buy him out of minor troubles. He will eventually do something so terrible that they can't. This is a good, lower-level way of reality, slapping him for being a jerk. No one wants to be interviewed because they knew the next influenza teen. Next up, I am a 26-year-old trans man who is extremely low contact with my parents, for exactly the reasons you'd expect. When I came out as gay at 18, my dad said no daughter of mine will be a lesbian. He was partially right. BC several years later, I came out as a bisexual trans man. They didn't handle that well either, and begged me to see a pastor. I went limited contact with them, and they've never really acknowledged or respected my transition. My mom has made small steps, but they both regularly deadbame and misgender me. I find it's best not to fight them and live our separate lives. My dad was also abusive throughout my childhood, so for my mental health, I generally avoid conflicts with him. On to the issue. Last year, I married my husband, who is also trans. It was an extremely small ceremony, literally only about a dozen people. My parents were not a part of it. I didn't tell them because I didn't want to deal with the backlash, and I definitely didn't want them there to make me feel awful on my wedding day. It's a year later, and they still don't know I'm married. My husband has been fully on board with whatever makes me comfortable. At some point, I'm going to have to mention it or it will come out accidentally. Now, I don't know how to tell them, and I'm starting to feel bad about keeping it so under wraps. Let's start judging. You're not in the wrong. You need support from people that love you. If they are not supportive, then you don't owe them an explanation. Find a way to work through your guilt and trauma caused by your family. You deserve a happy life, whether or not your parents are included. You're not in the wrong. You are clearly gray rocking your parents. The whole point is that you don't tell them the details of your life. Definitely nothing that they would use against you. You don't have to ever tell them. When they find out and invariably blow up, just look them in the eyes. What does that tell you exactly about my relationship with you? There is a lesson there, but you've never cared about me enough to learn it. And just walk away. Or just tell them. Don't worry about how to do it right, because there is not a way to get this right. Just one day, by the way, I married partner's name. Thought you should know. I strongly recommend you learn the Don't JADE, justify, argue, defend, explain philosophy with them. You're not in the wrong. Your wedding. Your choice. Being a parent does not give you rights in what your adult children do or communicate. And I say this as a parent of adult children. Also, a parent's rights terminate when a child hits 18, a deadline many parents use to abandon their obligations to their children. A good parent invests in their kids, and while they may try to influence what their kids do, a good parent recognizes that investment is not the same thing as controlling a child. Anyway, good luck. Sorry about the rents.